Many of the questions we've been looking at around the topic of representation played a particular role in the development of, I won't say the discipline of artificial intelligence, because there is no discipline of artificial intelligence. I will say instead, perhaps the pipe dream of artificial intelligence. Early artificial intelligence research was born in the heady computational days of the 60s and 70s, and it adopted a specific view with respect to human cognition, which assumed without question that knowledge was structured, knowledge was expressible as propositions, as facts, if you like, and that what we vaguely refer to as thought was a process of symbol manipulation according to rule. Now, it's very important when you meet the word artificial intelligence to distinguish between the intellectual climate in which that term was born and the way that word is used today. They are completely different. This is why I say there's no discipline of artificial intelligence. Back in the 60s and 70s, after the computational turn, rationalist assumptions about human intelligence were at their peak. The very notion of intelligence may make sense to you, but it is not a secure notion. There has never, ever been any agreement as to what intelligence is. And one way to view the term intelligence is as a kind of an ideal established by people who like a particular kind of education system rooted in the Western educational syllabus, and suited to specific cultural values that are always open to question. The idea that that humans are characterized by intelligence has no scientific basis. Nonetheless, when this view was at its peak in the 70s, there was all kinds of excitement about the idea that one could make a machine that exhibited this mysterious quality of intelligence. Now, things have changed since then. Our understanding of human cognition has, I would hope, broadened at least to encompass very many other views. The term artificial intelligence never went away, but it changed over the years, and today it is used in an entirely misleading sense to grant an aura of magic and science fiction to processes that are better described as mass data capture, state and commercial surveillance, and machine learning. So when you see artificial intelligence, do not think that this is some kind of a secure scientific paradigm. It is nothing of the sort. It is a term that is very unhelpful in contemporary debate. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Gives you a view of the kind of disembodied, impersonal, highly intellectual intelligence that lay behind the original vision of artificial intelligence. HAL, you'll notice, has no body. It's just a speaking red dot, a pure intellect. And that was in accord with the fanciful thinking of the 1970s. So back in those days, one kind of question that researchers were asking themselves was, how do we build a system that can make use of human-like knowledge about the world? Now, the assumptions behind that question as to what knowledge is and what the world is and what it means to behave are all appallingly outdated. Nonetheless, the ramifications of this research live on with us today in the confused contemporary landscape. So the very simplistic and naive approach taken at that stage was to build a system which had lots of facts in it, facts expressed as propositions. And in these days, there was the development of computer programs which for the first time could use natural language to interact with the user. So we've met this before. We met Terry Winograd's Sherdloo program, and there's a fuller transcript of an interaction with this program available under the Readings and Resources for Unit 1. This program is very early. It's from the 1970s. And the domain of operation of this program is a hypothetical toy world, like a video game, in which there are only very simple shapes that can be picked up or put down, rearranged. So nothing like the complexity of Grand Theft Auto or even Super Mario Kart. The interaction was by means of typing on a terminal, and this gave the appearance of a program that understood language. Of course, it's nothing of the sort. I encourage you to read the full transcript yourself. I won't bother doing it here. But it was very impressive at the time. This was the first time computers had seemed to have facility with language. Surely also had the ability to learn from its interactions with the user and to reflect on its own knowledge state. Now, that looks almost magical until you realize that that just means that it can check its database to see, does it have a fact that covers the current situation? It does not mean some kind of mystical power of introspection. And what such systems are 100% lacking is any common sense whatsoever. So programs that reasoned about the state of things in toy worlds like video games did not scale up to the real world. This should come as no big surprise. This problem became known as the frame problem. The idea was that no matter how well you represent a set of facts that cover a given situation, there's always an infinite number of other things relevant to that situation which you have excluded. There's always a larger frame in which to understand things. So an example of the frame problem is the following. If my machine stores a lot of propositional facts about Nora, her position, the house, and the whole world, and at some stage we recognize a new fact, Nora goes into the house. Suppose we ask the system now, where is Nora's nose? Well, now, you know where Nora's nose is. Nora's nose is on Nora's face, because that's where noses are. But did anyone ever tell you, or did you ever have to learn the fact that a nose is on a face? And there's an infinity of other things that would, to you, be immediately obvious, but that would not be listed in any itemization of the facts pertinent to a situation. These kinds of reasoning systems have their uses. They underlie things like recommender systems for Netflix algorithms and YouTube videos. They provide software services that guide administrative procedures. But the ideology, the dreams of this kind of thing are dead at this stage. One of the largest projects of this nature, the psych reasoning system, took it to extremes. They had a large fleet of people typing in facts all day. It's still going, this thing. What you get is a large knowledge base of facts, which is maybe interesting, maybe useful for some in some limited domains. If you run a garden center and you have a set of facts about plants, then that's going to be helpful in advising customers. What it is not is a model of human cognition at all. But if we look at the way the creators of this program wrote about it, Psych Foundation, imagine a world in which every single person is given free access to programs that reason with the sum of all human knowledge. That's what we are doing. That is delusional megalomania. It's arrogant in that it assumes that human knowledge can be captured in the fashion that they conceive of it. The idea that these programs are reasoning with the sum of all human knowledge is so thoroughly mistaken, it's hard to know where to begin. And yet such systems proliferate today because if you build computer systems with lots of data and facts, in them expressed as sentences, you can answer certain kinds of queries. This has nothing to do with human cognition anymore. Common sense reasoning, this frame problem, where is Nora's nose, is extremely hard for computers. The set of facts that might be relevant to solving any real problem in the real world is essentially infinite. Having a database that describes the problems that arise in a garden center or in chess positions within chess, those are finite domains. Those are toy worlds. And toy world solutions don't scale up to the complexity of the real world. Perhaps one of the most attention-grabbing examples of these approaches to artificial intelligence in the 1970s sense was IBM's Watson. The Jeopardy-busting computer. This is a computer which, guess what, answers questions about facts in this format of a TV show. Now, this is much more recent than the 1970s pipe dream of artificial intelligence, but you can see two things here. One, the technology advances hugely as computing power goes on, so we're capable of having very large databases. Secondly, the ideology that suggests that a human is a pure disembodied intellect that reasons over stone-cold facts. This ideology, this religion, lives on to this day, unfortunately. This has long been recognized by many people in the field. It's got a name. The name is Moravec's paradox. The assumptions in the 60s and 70s were that the human faculty of reason was the only thing that was of importance about humans in trying to characterize their spirit, their ghosts, their soul. And that was a computational problem. But in fact, when you express a problem such that it can be solved in this manner, it's relatively trivial to solve. But the stuff that can't be expressed in this manner, the sensory motor embedding in the world, the fluid body that engages with its surrounds, the intuitive understanding of situations, we share this with animals, and any such characterization of a being in the world cannot be finitely described. Even the simplest task here exhibits computational explosion. I'm going to leave you with a last little video, and I want you to think about this distinction between this characterization of human intelligence as symbol manipulation in the 1970s. It went to extremes. And I want you to consider this humble pea plant. This humble pea plant has no brain whatsoever. When we look at what it's doing, it is engaging in perceptually guided exploratory action. It's searching for something to which it can climb up on, and is doing so using very simple movements that are suited to the kind of environment in which it lives. The most advanced computer program has not reached the level of this pea plant. So the topic of representation has really taken us very many places, and has opened up so many issues. You can see why this topic occurs again and again in cognitive science, and why there's no single approach to representation that can answer the many questions that we've addressed. And we'll leave it there.